choosing a research topic and developing the most important research question. We'll come back to the importance of this research question in a moment. So, how do you go about choosing your research topic? The first thing you should be doing is looking at the requirements of your course. These, in some universities, particularly for an MBA dissertation, can be very specific. They may ask you to look at a particular problem in an organisation, or they may require you to do primary research. In some colleges, the requirements may be more liberal, and you have much more choice as to the kind of dissertation you produce. So, first and foremost, check what your college requires of you. The next important step is to think of what you are interested in. You've got to do something in which you have some interest, because this project is going to live with you for several months of sometimes intensive work. And if you're not interested in what you're doing, the results are going to come through in the finished product. So what I recommend all students to do is, as their course proceeds, to jot down points of interest. Those points of interest could be related to what they're doing in class at the time. It could be related to your work experience or your general interests outside college. One thing that might inform you about your dissertation is your specific career goals. So, for example, if you are interested in a specific job or career in, say, marketing or finance, then you may wish to do a dissertation topic which reflects those areas and gives you something you can show to a future employer. Another important consideration is to make sure that you have enough information available. And this comes in a number of different forms. If you are doing some primary research, i.e. research that no one else has done before on a particular subject in a particular company or whatever, then you need to find out whether there is sufficient data, sufficient information available to you. Another important source of information is the work that other people have done. We'll come on to this in the second topic in this series when we look at writing up a literature review. Focusing your work around known literature is particularly important. So you ask yourself, is the topic that I have chosen, has it got a literature? Has someone else reviewed that topic in some way before? This could also help you formulate your own ideas. In some cases, the topic that you choose is going to be linked to some theory or other. A theory of motivation, for example. A theory of market entry for an international firm. In this case, you can be assured that there is a fairly substantial literature for you to draw upon. Yet a further consideration, particularly when it comes to carrying out your own research, is what skills do you possess? What research experience have you got? Where do you think your skills are lacking? Because there still may be time for you to do something about that and to develop those skills. An important consideration in any dissertation is whether the topic you have chosen lends itself to clear objectives, and through those objectives you can develop a research question. Then all you need to decide, having established all these criteria, is, have you got enough time? Is what you propose to do achievable in the time that you have to write, research, submit this particular dissertation. And while you're doing all this, don't forget to get as much advice as you can from your tutors at college and bounce ideas off your colleagues within your particular course, because they can be a rich source of help to you. I've said that one of the most important considerations in choosing a topic is to narrow that topic down into a research question. So once you've selected your range of topics, the next thing that you need to do is to put these range of topics into a research question. Why is a research question so important? Well, for a start, the amount of literature that you look at, the type of literature that you look at, is going to be informed by your research question. The kind of research methods that you use are going to be dependent upon the research question. It helps you focus. It tells you what's important, what's not important, and therefore it's an important time saver for you in doing your dissertation. It will help you with your analysis, it will help formulate your conclusions, and it will be a great help in writing up your dissertation. So, what is this research question that we talk about? I think the best thing for me to do is to illustrate it with a real example. Let us say that you've had work experience in the hotel industry, or you're interested in the hotel industry. And one thing that has struck you from your interest or your work in the hotel industry is that you were taken on as a temporary employee during the summer months when demand was highest. And you're now interested in why firms use these kinds of temporary and flexible labour. So let's say you decide upon this as your research topic. How do you get from this to a number of research questions? Well, the first thing that you've got to do is you have to look at the possible directions this topic can take you. One direction could be asking the question, why do firms hire temporary and flexible labour? This would be looking at the topic from a managerial perspective, from a financial analysis perspective, or even a strategic perspective. But there are other ways of looking at this particular topic. One way you could look at it is to say, well, what are the levels of job satisfaction and motivation amongst temporary staff? Is it different to permanent staff? What are the rates of labour turnover among temporary staff compared to permanent staff? How easy are temporary staff to manage compared to permanent staff? Is the output of temporary staff, the quality of their work, does that vary compared to the output and the quality of work of more permanent staff? These are all directions that you can take your project. In many cases, you end up with possibly too many directions, and you've got to make a choice. The key criteria for making that choice is to ensure that your objectives and your research questions are in some way linked. Of the examples I've just given you, the outrider would be the looking at this problem from the perspective of management, from the perspective of a financial or strategic decision. Many of the other aspects, job satisfaction, motivation, turnover, employee performance, are linked, and you could use any number of these to formulate related research questions. But if you have more than one research question, then it is very important that these research questions are linked. So let's run with this particular example. What would your research questions be? We can give you 4 possible research questions out of what we've just spoken. For example, is job satisfaction among those employed on a temporary basis lower than job satisfaction of those employed on a permanent contract? Is labour turnover amongst those employed on a temporary basis higher than those employed on a permanent contract? Is the work output of those employed on a temporary basis less or maybe even greater than those employed on a permanent basis? And is the quality of work of those employed on a temporary basis lower than those employed on a permanent basis? So out of this topic, we've created 4 research questions. And each of those different research questions will give you some idea of the research methods that you must use to complete your dissertation.